everyone, Carol here at Oak House Journals. Thank you for joining me again today, and a warm welcome to everybody. If you've been watching my last couple of videos, you all know that I got some bits and bobs from BeeBeeCrafts, and I've been reviewing what they sent me, and I said that I would do a quick video showing what I made with these little glass baubles. Let me show you very quickly. These are glass baubles about 1 centimetre in size, with I think that's probably around about 3 or 4 centimetres on the top for the hole, and there is a little tiny lip on the top which you probably can just make out on the camera, and these little caps fit on top. Now the little caps have a hole in the top for a jump ring. They're made of metal, and whoa, they're tiny, and they look like that. They're very nice actually, and you can probably just make out the hole. And that little lip on top means that that little cap just sits nicely on the top when you glue it in place. Now you get 50 of these in the bag, or in this little plastic container, and I have to say, even though these are glass, they are very robust. I've had no problems at all using them. And there's the gold caps. So you get 25 of these and 25 of the silver in this little container. The other thing I got was, again in this little plastic box, these glass, let me get a lid out. These glass tubes, these are a little bit thicker than the glass baubles. You don't get as many. I think you get about 20 in the pack for the price. I will put all the details in the description box down below to the BeeBeeCraft website, which, as I've said in the previous videos, give yourself some time because they have the most extensive range of products. And I will also put the specific link down below for these two items. But this is the glass little file or tube, and as I say, this is slightly more robust, and in terms of length, the tube is 1 inch, which is, I think it equates to about 3 centimetres. Yeah, it does. So by the time you put the cap on, it's a little bit bigger. So these are the two products that I got from BeeBeeCrafts, and I'll pop them off to one side, and I will show you what I have made. Now, these two I made a couple of days ago because I wanted to make sure that my recommendation to use Glossy Accents was going to be absolutely the right thing for securing the caps. It is. Now, if you have the smaller Glossy Accents bottle, it will give you a lovely fine nozzle like so, which is ideal. But better still, and what I tend to do with my Glossy Accents, is I have one of these fine nozzled bottles. And again, these are ideal for just going round the lip of your bottle and then putting your cap on the top. So this is one I did the other day, and another tip is put your jump ring through the through the loop or through the hole of the top of your cap, because these are very, very they're tiny and they're fiddly, and if you're just getting hold of that little nodule on the top, they do tend to slip out of your hand easily. But if you've got a jump ring there, it gives you something to hang on to. So I would recommend you do that before you glue your top to the bottom. Now, this little one I filled with some tiny, tiny little loose stars that I had in my stash, and I wanted this to look like a little Christmas bauble to hang off the side of one of my pages in my one of my Christmas journals, which is a red, green and gold colour themed journal, and I just thought that was absolutely gorgeous. And these are not too big for doing exactly that, to use them as a page dangle. As you know, I tend to like using and making smaller journals, and these are perfect for the size of journals I work with. So that was one. This one I filled with tiny little silver. Now they look like beads to you, but they won't be. These containers, I've spent a good couple of hours going all the way around my craft room trying to find little tiny things to put inside these, and seed beads are perfect. Now, whilst these might look like seed beads, they're not. They're actually jewellery crimps, but I only had a few left. I very rarely use them, and I knew that my lid was going to be silver on this one, and these are little silver crimps, so just absolutely perfect. Now, these ones down here are ones that I did yesterday, and the reason that they're on a little bit of blue tack is because I've used resin in all of these. Oh no, not this one. This one is just filled with some little white pieces of glitter. You can see them moving around, so it's white and iridescent glitter in that one. And let me show you the glitter I used. This was the glitter. It's fine glitter, iridescent, and it's from Dough Crafts Paper Mania. So I got this very cheaply from the range here in England, but I think they also sell it in Hobbycraft. You can certainly get it online, but any fine glitter would work. I was going to use this Nouveau Plasma Purple pure sheen glitter, but then realised that I hadn't really got anything purple that I wanted to use these little baubles with, so I decided to not use those. But that's just a couple of options. I'll show you another one. This is Nouveau Rainbow Quartz Triangles, and I've used those but not in these baubles, and I'll show you in a minute. So anything like this is absolutely ideal. Now, another tip, because I've used resin in these, with the exception of that little one, you need something to hold these in an upright position. So if you just get a pea-sized piece of blue tack, roll it into a ball in the centre of your hand, pop it down on a mat, a coaster, and then just press your thumb knuckle in it, your finger knuckle in it. It just makes a little indent, and it makes it so much easier for these to dry and glue properly. So this one, I put some resin inside it, and then I used some of this glitter. I poured it in just by folding a piece of paper in half and angling the glitter down the crease of the paper into that aperture. Don't try doing it from the canister because it'll go everywhere. So just the usual trick when you're putting glitter back into a container, fold a piece of paper and let it work its way down the crease. So I used some resin, then put the glitter in, and then put some more resin in. And then what is very handy with these things, I used my pointy nose tweezers, and I just stirred up my resin, hoping that the glitter and the resin would mix, but it actually hasn't. I think the camera might just pick that up. My glitter mostly has gone to the bottom, but it's so fine anyway, it makes it look very pretty. Now, I'm no great shakes with resin by any means. I had some in my stash which I bought cheap years ago with the idea of using it at some stage, and when I went to dig it out yesterday, I realised that it was coloured resin, which isn't what I wanted for these little ones. So I went online and I just bought some crystal resin and mixed some of that up. Now, I've never played with resin before, and I had a field day with these. And what I used to get the resin into that tiny 3mm hole is I used a pipette. So when I mixed up my resin, I put my pipette into the resin, sucked it up, and then just popped the inside of the nozzle into the bauble and squeezed out my resin. And as you can see, there's a little bit left over inside the pipette there from last night when I was playing with the resin. So I would suggest using this. If you haven't got a pipette, then you could drip your resin into the hole, but it's not going to be very easy to do that, I warn you, because it's like a big droplet that goes in, so it's easier to actually use a pipette and put that in. If you've got a tiny funnel, that would work. Apart from that, I haven't got any real suggestions, I'm afraid. I mean, these I've had in my stash for a while, but I think you can get them online. They're dirt cheap, so yeah, I would suggest if you haven't got any of these, you might want to get hold of some of these and try those. So how did I get on with my resin? Well, I was absolutely thrilled. The hardest thing I found was being here in the UK in autumn, trying to find flowers that were small enough to go in that little glass bauble was no mean feat. And I had to say, I was out in the rain yesterday afternoon. I obviously didn't think that through when I was deciding I wanted to put a little flower head inside, but I managed to find just a remnant of some flower heads in the hanging basket, hanging troughs that we've got outside that I could use. And what I did with these was, again, I half filled with resin. I got my flower head, I pushed it inside with these, and then very, very carefully poured in some more resin. And this is where these come in very handy, because you just put your little glass ball on the top, walk away and leave it till your resin's dry. And it told me that my resin needed 24 hours. So that's why these are still on here. And I glued the caps on this morning, probably around about 9 o'clock, to make sure that the caps were on properly. This is another one, and again another little tiny flower head in there. Now I just think these would make exquisite little dangles for off the edge of a page for a botanical journal, absolutely. And this one, I've just left the cap off the top of this one so that I was hoping that you would be able to see the hole. So that's my hole there going into the little bauble. And all I do for attaching the cap is just take a little bit of Glossy Accents. Just put a little tiny amount, when I can get it to come out of the... Here we go, it's coming out now. All around that lip, glass lip, round the top. And I also, just for good measure, put a little bit, if I can get on camera, inside the cap there. It's just a little thin film. And then pop it on the top, seat it on the top. And I just tap it down with my finger to make sure that it is on top of the glass dome. And then I just popped it to one side and left it to dry. Now, as I say, these were glued this morning round about 9 o'clock, and it's now almost 2 o'clock. So I was happy to handle these. These were absolutely fine. The resin hasn't had a full 24 hours to harden, but as you can see, it was nicely hardened anyway, so not an issue. This one I will leave now for a good 4-5 hours before I handle it again. So that's what I made with those, and I have to say I'm thrilled not only with playing with resin but how they turned out. And I've still got loads left, so that's absolutely wonderful. A definite win-win with those little things in my mind. The other thing I played with was obviously the little tubes and I've got those here to one side, and here's, I just made a few. Let me show you. Okay, so this first one I put on one of the little tassels that I did a tutorial on yesterday, and I've just looped it through another jump ring that I've put through the top of this cap, and I filled up the tube with these Novo rainbow quartz triangles that I mentioned a moment ago, and I didn't fill it up full, I've just filled it up 3/4 full before I glued the cap on. The reason being is that I want some movement inside my tube, but I just think they're so sweet. And you could wear these as a necklace if you wanted to. They don't have to be as dangles. You could use them for all sorts of things. This one I use one of the gold caps, and I put in a tiny piece of my indenture paper, which dates back to the early 1900s, and that just goes in there. Did the same thing with this one, put another little scrap in there, and you're probably not picking up on camera, but there is a tiny red line around the bottom of the indenture paper at the bottom there, and also up at the top just underneath the cap, and I just thought a little red tassel would pick up that red, and I just think they look so cute. Sorry, I know you shouldn't say things like that about your own work, but I have to say I just think these are lovely. I really do. This one I wanted to do slightly different. I wanted to have some liquid in this one, so I'm not sure if you can see that. This one has got some liquid sealed into it, and what I used for that, after a little bit of trial and error, is all I used was alcohol ink. Now I've used alcohol ink. This is just some Ranger lettuce alcohol ink it's called, from my stash. I've used alcohol ink to stain the inside of bottles before when I've done Halloween projects, so I wanted to put some in here, but I knew that if I put a lot in it wouldn't set, so it would stay liquefied. Now I did try using Glossy Accents. That didn't work, partly because it was a challenge. It's very gloopy, even with the fine nozzle, to get in there to create my liquid. I tried to use some Fabri-Tac because I thought I kind of wanted something that was semi-clear, but neither of them worked well, and I shouldn't have even tried with Fabri-Tac. It's just way too thick and gloopy. But the alcohol ink was absolutely perfect, not least because it's got that fine nozzle that you can channel it through. I'm sure if you wanted to do a similar sort of thing, you could come up with your own ideas if you wanted liquid inside. I also obviously have been gluing all these caps on using Glossy Accents, so I know that that cap is on there really well. And then I made a tiny little label which says "Drink Me" on there, and to do that I used one of these tiny little tags that I have here, and these are about 1 centimetre and 2 millimeters in length. I printed off on my computer some different size fonts saying "Drink Me," and the size of font that I ended up using, as you can see here and chopped out, was a font size 6. So I cut out the font size 6 and just glued it onto one of these little tags, and then made a hole using my rubber and one of these pokey tools by Tim Holtz. And all I did was I just punched a hole and then used my jump ring to secure it in place, and that just sits on the top. And the reason I've done this is because I will use this on my Alice journal as one of the page dangles. Now, the only thing I would say about these are glass. Don't forget, these are glass. I've had no accidents whatsoever playing with these. They haven't chipped. They've been really robust. I have put them through their paces, but at the end of the day, they're still glass, so they still might break. And I have to say that if this breaks with alcohol ink in it, it will mark whatever the alcohol ink touches. Now, I know that the journal that I'm making will be pretty well looked after, so I'm not averse to using this, but you might want to think twice about using alcohol ink inside your tube and using it as a page dangle. Just a heads up there. And then finally, I found a little, I haven't glued this one because just literally before I came on camera, I had this idea and I thought, I'll quickly do that. And what I found is a tiny rose. Now this isn't glued on. I've just pushed the rose inside there, and I would offer to get that out, but I know that that is a tight fit, so it isn't coming out. But let me show you what it is. And it's one of these, I think they're called mulberry paper flowers. I mean, you can see, you can get these in Hobbycraft, in the range, places like that. You can buy them online. Usually places like, or anywhere that sells these are in China. Now, as it is at the moment, that head is too big to go into one of these tubes. But because they're paper, you can squeeze it and roll it tightly between your fingers, and I mean you might have to work that, but you can make that bud small enough so that you can push it inside your tube and get the rose in there. So I was really pleased about that. I loved that idea. And then I thought, I've shown you these little tiny bezels that I've played around with recently. This one has just got a little tiny image from some chapter 1 paper just popped in there with some glossy accents, and I've got it on a safety pin at the moment so I don't lose it. But what I thought is popping that through the top there with one of the BeeBeeCraft jump rings would be absolutely lovely, and make a nice finish to that little tube. You could also put a half pearl in there as well, again to pretty it up. So they were just the ideas that I came up with when I was playing yesterday with these little tubes, and I have to say I absolutely love them. I really do. They were great fun to play with, and I'm sure you can come up with loads more ideas, much better than mine, for what you can do with these. As I say, I will put the link to the products in the description box down below. I will also put the link to the BeeBeeCrafts website, and you can go online and have a look there. And if you are interested, like I was, in the BeeBeeCrafts product review program, I will also put the link down below so that you can get in touch with them and express your interest. I think you only need to have 100 plus subscribers to be able to take part in their challenge, not their challenge, their product review program. And I have to say, it has been great fun. So a big thank you from me to everybody who has let me share these bits and bobs and ideas with you, and a big thank you to BeeBeeCrafts for supplying me with some free samples to play with. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care, have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.